Hello, everybody. Welcome to February's Virtual Bariatric Meetup hosted by BariNation. My name is April Williams, and I'm one of the co-founders of BariNation. And today we are joined by two amazing members of our community, Dr. Michael Russo and Miss Mabel. Hello, friends. I'm going to ask Mr. Russo and Mabel to introduce themselves. Dr. Russo, can we start with you? Just a brief hello and an introduction from yourself to our guests.
Of course. My name is Dr. Mike Russo. Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the BariNation podcast. So this is actually my second time participating, and I'm really excited to contribute in any way I can. I'm a weight loss surgeon. I've done about 4,000 surgeries. I'm in Orange County, California. So I was just typing in the chat box that my contribution was I've given about 4,000 people their surgical tool. So I'm really excited to participate in the discussion tonight and excited to see where it goes.
Awesome. We are so thankful to have you. We're so grateful for your time. Dr. Russo's podcast episode is a surprise drop that's happening tomorrow. And in that episode, he talks about self-advocacy, which he's going to talk about tonight as well. But we're very thankful for your time, Dr. Russo. Miss Mabel, where you at, girl?
I'm right here. Hey, everybody. So my name is Mabel, and I had surgery June 19, 2018. Lost 120 pounds. Through my journey, fell in love with personal development and got certified as a mindset coach. So mindset is my jam. That's all I got right now.
And if you guys have not listened or watched yet to the podcast episode that we dropped today with Mabel, I highly recommend you do. She cracked me like a farm fresh egg. She just straight broke into my soul and helped me identify all of the ways that I might be holding myself back in self-love. Mabel is amazing. Dr. Russo is amazing. We are just so thankful for these outstanding members of our community to be joining us tonight and gifting us their time. I'll do a quick introduction of myself, and then Jason and Natalie will do so as well. Like I said, my name is April Williams. I had VSG in July of 2019. I have lost and maintained 120-pound weight loss. And Jason and I started what used to be called East to West WLS almost 2 years ago. We were really disappointed in the aftercare that we got. The COVID pandemic kind of shut the world down, and we were desperate for help and support from people who had been through what we were going through. And I started hosting these virtual bariatric meetups. And here we are today. So I'm just so thrilled and so honored to be a part of this community and to be able to put on these events for all of us, because this support is necessary and needed. Mr. Jason, you want to introduce yourself next?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jason. I am 46 years old. I had VSG on March 11th of 2020. So I'm almost at my 2 year. So lost 191 pounds. And much like what April was saying, we just got to the point where we realized that the aftercare we were receiving really wasn't much in the way of care. It was just kind of after the check. So we decided that we knew we weren't alone in that situation, that if she and I could experience the same thing on opposite ends of the country, that we knew that there had to be people not only on our same opposite ends, but all the way through the middle who have been, kind of cast out the same way. So we decided that we really needed to try to bring as much support to the community as we could. So we started that and got out to where we are today, found Natalie along the way, brought her in, and things couldn't have been any better. She was the missing piece we never knew we needed, but now couldn't imagine being without.
Absolutely not. We are the most tight-knit family we could ever come up with, which is the best thing ever. Miss Nat, want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I'm Natalie. I live in Seattle with my dog Hooper. I had VSG surgery on September 20th of 2020, September 29th of 2020. I had a revision, so I had 2 previous surgeries. The first surgery I had was the lap band. That one ended up just failing me, as some lap bands do. It caused me some pretty severe complications. And then after that, I had a plication surgery. which also did not work out for me. Third time's the charm. I got my VSG and I've lost 140 pounds. Still hopefully working on it a little bit more, but pretty happy to be on this journey and excited to have this night tonight. I'm excited for the conversation.
Oh, it's going to be fire. It's going to be fire. All right, friends. Before we get to the nitty gritty of it, I want to let you know of this amazing company. If you have not heard of them, we have partnered with a company called Patient Partner, and their sole purpose in this universe is to connect bariatric patients with some of the resources that they need to find success before and after surgery. One of the most powerful pieces of Patient Partner is they can match you with a vetted bariatric mentor. So if you don't have somebody in your corner, if you don't have somebody to go to ask those questions that you might have before surgery, you can find that person in Patient Partner. They will match you with a bariatric patient, just like myself, who's been vetted and gone through kind of this like mentor training program. It's an amazing resource. It's absolutely free. It's just stunning what they have been able to create. Dr. Russo is featured as a surgeon in the Patient Partner universe. There's all kinds of supports that live there. I've dropped a link in the chat, you guys, if you are watching this live with us. If you click that link and you open it into a separate web tab or browser, after this event, you can go to the Patient Partner website and just learn more about them. But if you are just struggling along your journey and you just don't know where to turn and you're looking for another tool that you can add to your bariatric toolbox, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out Patient Partner. It's a free resource that is available to you now. All right. If you have been to a VBM before, you know that we always kind of go over some ground rules before we dive into our conversation. So we just want to share with you what our mission is and some of the ground rules for our meetup tonight. The whole vision, the whole reason that the VBM exists is because we want to support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. We want to destigmatize bariatric surgery. We want to grow a community of and for bariatric patients and their supporters. And we wanted a safe place to share ideas and experiences that add value to our lives before and after our bariatric procedure. That's the whole reason that the VBM exists. It's really the reason that BariNation exists. So some ground rules for tonight. Please always assume best intent. Share what you are comfortable with sharing publicly. This is recorded and it lives on our fabulous YouTube channel. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing something publicly, that's okay. Just wait until we're done with the event and then we can share afterwards when we have stopped recording. We're not here to sell you anything. We're literally just here for support and to connect with one another. If we see any nudity, violence, or isms in the chat or in the screen, we're just going to remove you from the event and you will not be allowed to come again, and we don't want that to happen. And as always, this is not medical advice. Consult your doctor, your surgical team, everybody in your medical universe before you make any changes at all to your health. Okay, I think I did it. I think I did it in record time, you guys. I'm a little shocked. Let's do this, friends. Let's dive in. So today's conversation is really focusing on these two big areas of life that many of us struggle in: self-care and self-love. And you guys know we love to start every podcast episode or every conversation making sure that we are on the same page, that we're speaking the same language. So in the BariNation world, self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. Self-love is similar but different. Self-love is all about appreciating where we are now and what we offer the world. Those are our two working definitions of self-care and self-love. And the thing about self-care and self-love is that these are things that we have to practice. These are actions that we take. These are things and words that we say to ourselves that really preserve or improve our health. And we don't have to practice self-love by saying the words, well, I love this. Self-love can show up in our lives in a lot of different ways. And we have the one and only Mabel from Beyond the Sleeve Academy to really walk us through self-love and to help us understand why it can be so painful to acquire this practice of self-love. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to Miss Mabel, and she is going to to talk to us about self-love.
Hello, everybody. So I always love to start with letting everybody know that self-love is a feeling that is generated by the thoughts that we're thinking. So self-love is not something that you're like reaching, like it's not available to you. It's available to you right now with the thoughts that you think. So you think self-love thoughts, you feel self-love in your body, and that is how you feel self-love. It's really as easy as that. The only thing that stops you is the limited beliefs that you have had for years from the things that you learn, what you consider to be self-love. That's the only thing that's stopping you from feeling self-love. And that's okay. It's a practice, and that's why we're here. So there are many reasons, but these are like the top 3 reasons why finding self-love is painful. And when we say painful, I mean like mentally painful. Like it requires mental energy from us. And it's not because we don't deserve it. It's not because it's something that, it's going to be hard for us to get. It's the reason why is our brains love to do the same thing over and over again. And once we start doing something different, it becomes a struggle. It's like you're walking on mud, but you can still get to the other side. All right, so the first one is, you will find things you don't want to see, which leads to judgment. And it's hard sometimes to see what we're thinking about ourselves, because we have thoughts that we shouldn't be thinking that about ourselves. Something is wrong with us because we're thinking that. But the reality is that the reason we're thinking these things is because it's what we grew up seeing, is what we thought was normal. And we just acquire these thoughts, and they're just recycled thoughts, and they could be removed. So once you know that it's not that you hate yourself, it's just the thoughts that's been introduced to you. That's why you're thinking these thoughts. You don't have to judge yourself. This is part of the journey to get to the other side. And that discomfort that you're feeling is just a vibration in your body. Like your life is okay. It's just work that you have to do in your brain.
And I know, Mabel, when we were recording that podcast episode, you kept saying that to me. It's just a vibration. I was really uncomfortable in that conversation, not in a bad way. I mean, it was something that I was so not used to talking about or exploring. And when you really pushed me to identify why I was having such a difficult time, saying kind things even to myself, or why I thought that I had to do these certain things, to know that what I was feeling wasn't anything detrimental. It was just a different vibration, just a different feeling. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just means that, oh, this is something new that you're doing. And that's okay. This is what something new feels like. It doesn't mean it's bad or good.
Mm-hmm. And we tend to run away from those vibrations, right? That's what a lot of times lead us to emotional eating and not dealing with things in life, because once we feel feelings, we don't know what to do with it. So most of us run away from it. We go towards food, and it's just practicing being in your body and feeling those sensations and knowing that it's okay. It's just you having a human experience, and your body knows what to do with those vibrations. You were going to say something, April?
No, I just it's just taking me back to the podcast episode that we just recorded.
The second thing that makes finding self-love more mentally, painful is that once we start changing our behavior, once we start believing new things about ourselves and start showing up in the world in a different way, then you have to deal with other people's reaction to your changes, which first of all is none of your problem. But in the beginning, it will feel like you are the cause of people's reaction to your changes. And what I love to tell people is we create our own emotion. Other people do not create emotions for us. We create our emotions with our thoughts, which means that they're creating their emotions with their thoughts. Thoughts about you changing, thoughts about your new habits, thoughts about the way you're behaving and showing up to the world differently. So this is not work that you have to do for them. That's the work that they have to do for themselves. And many times, people are just reacting to what is showing up for them. And some people don't mean like, it's not like they don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to like achieve things. It's just, it brings things for them, because if you're showing up for yourself in a different way, sometimes people, when they're in their own challenges, they're wondering why they can't do the same thing, or it just triggers anything, or that you changing might change your dynamics, your relationship. And it's just a whole bunch of things. We don't know what exactly it changes from relationship to relationship, but just know that you changing has nothing, like you're not affecting other people's emotions. That's their work to deal with. And your work is to show up in the way that you want to show up, and be okay with all the negative emotions that might come, and know, again, that those are just vibrations in your body, and that you deserve the life that you want to create for yourself. And if it means that you're going to feel uncomfortable just for a little bit, so everybody gets the picture, then that's okay. The important thing, sorry, girl.
No, the reason that I think this is so important to talk about is because I think many of us, when we travel down our bariatric journey, realize that people are reacting very differently to us, right? So all of a sudden, people seem to be treating us differently, or they're saying different things, or they're interacting with us in these strange ways. And we don't want, right? Like we take that on as like, oh, well, it's because of me, right? They're doing it because of me, and I'm making these changes. But if we stay the same for them, we never move forward in our own lives. And when you're talking about like, you know, we finally get to show up as who we are, who we want to. I think part of the bariatric journey that's so difficult is that for so many years, none of us knew who we were or who we wanted to be. Or so not only are we dealing with, you know, other people's reactions and emotions to our changes, but we're trying to do this self-love thing of really trying to discover who we are at our core, and then realizing that we're being judged or we're being treated differently by the people that we love because we're trying to make these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people get comfortable in your role. Even though you may not be as comfortable in your role, they're comfortable in you being in your role. So anytime you try to do anything that's outside of that, they get uncomfortable. Like Mabel said, it's going to shift the dynamic of things, and they don't know how to act about it any better than you know how to act about it, because you're trying to get your footing with who you are as a new person. And that person's also trying to get, you know, a good feeling and footing for what you're trying to be and how things are going to shake up and settle back down again.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said, you cannot allow what other people feel about that type of situation to keep you from doing that very thing. You need to grow just as you would unencumbered to be able to become this new person. And it's going to be very hard for you to do. But most, you know, change is uncomfortable. We know this from way back. But, you know, we've made uncomfortable changes and choices and decisions before. That's how we got where we are today. So, you know, it only made us stronger coming out the other side. So you have to be able to do those things, take those steps, and have those difficult conversations in order to do that and be the best version of yourself.
Right.
It's amazing. Sorry to interrupt. I just think it's amazing. It's so true. People are overwhelmingly creatures of routine. So one of the most challenging things to do with bariatric surgery, yes, the surgery is a catalyst for change, but it's changing your everyday routine. And this really is built on a foundation of things like self-love and commitment to your long-term goals. And it's funny because I'm glad that Mabel brought it up. You will encounter negative reactions to what you interpret as being a very positive journey. Oftentimes that's based on jealousy, or like everyone's kind of been describing. It's a redefinition of someone's relationship to you because you're changing.
Right. And I know we want to get angry at this. And I know sometimes we don't want to be the bigger person, but I found for your own peace of mind, have compassion for people, right? Just for me, when I was going through my journey and people were like reacting to my changes or thought I was being self-centered, why I'm always at the gym, why am I always like taking care of myself? I thought to myself, of course, this person is thinking this. They're scared, they're worried, they're concerned. It's not my responsibility, but of course, they're just having a human reaction to change. And that's what helped me not try to like, just get angry at the world, knowing that it's human behavior and it's okay, but it's not my problem. And I'm still gonna do what I want.
Always put them in their place, Mabel. Always put them in their place. So what's the last reason that this journey of self-love can be so painful?
Yes, the last one that I'm going to discuss today is our brains do not want to believe something we don't have much evidence for. And what I mean by this is when you are thinking a thought over and over and over again, you believe it to be true because you start looking for evidence for that thought. You start agreeing with that thought and start looking out in the world for that evidence. So if you say to yourself, oh, I really hate myself, then you are going to start looking for evidence of like, oh, this situation happened. Oh, look at me not putting myself first. This is why it's so important to do intentional thought work. And in the beginning, it's going to feel like you're walking on mud. It's going to feel like you're being phony because you don't believe that it's true. But when you decide on having a new thought about yourself that creates self-love, you have to start giving your brain evidence as to why it's true. And in the beginning, your brain is going to tell you that there's no evidence. But I bet you if you sit down and you really, really think about it, you will start finding evidence of the new thought. And then that will start becoming true with practice. That's why affirmations, they don't just work. Like if you just pick any affirmation that doesn't really resonate with you, they do not work. It works when you pick something that you believe and practice over and over. Like just believe just a little bit and start looking for evidence for it and start doing it over and over and over again. And I don't know when you're going to believe it. There's no time limit. Some people like to rush to the end point, but we can't do that because it doesn't work that way. You just keep practicing until one day it just happens.
And Mabel, I want to circle back to this point that you made because it's so powerful. If we tell ourselves mean, nasty things to ourselves, our brain is going to look for that evidence. It just is because our brains are wired to look for what we're telling it. So it sounds crazy, but the simple thing to do is start by telling yourself something different than what you have already been doing. You don't have to believe that statement 100%. It doesn't need to be a 100% accurate, truthful statement for you to say it. Because the more often that you do say it, the more work your brain is going to do to look for pieces of evidence. And like what Mabel said, the evidence does exist, but we have to say it. This is such a powerful part of this conversation, right? Is that it really is these simple things. And I know my big struggle was when I think of self-love, it just feels weird to me. It just does, right? It just feels, I don't understand, right? But what my brain does understand are there are some things that I'm proud about when it comes to my life and who I am. There are things that I admire. There are things that I'm like, I'm okay with that. Turns out those statements are self-love, right? If we put our self-love thinking in a box like I was doing, we're never going to get there because our definition is so limited. So Mabel, what are some things that people can tell themselves, or what can people think about when they're starting to get up the courage to really start practicing this self-love?
I guess because whatever question, like you said before, whatever question you ask your brain is going to start looking for the answer. So if you say to yourself, in what ways do I love myself? Do I experience self-love? And it might be hard in the beginning, but you will get some answers. Your brain will start scanning for things out in the world, how you show self-love to yourself. If you ask your brain, in what ways do I hate myself? I'm pretty sure your brain has like a long list of things, right? If that's what you've been practicing over and over again. So you have to give equal airtime to the new belief. Whatever thought you decide to believe is going to be true. Your brain will show you in what ways you do not show self-love to yourself, and your brain will show you in what ways you do show love to yourself. That's everybody. If I ask my brain now, in what ways do I not show self-love to myself, my brain will offer me all types of answers. So it's not just your brain. Like, nothing is wrong with you. It's just the way the brain works. It really doesn't know the difference between good or bad. It really just finds answers for what you're looking for.
Wow. Well, and that kind of ties into the question Natalie had. Nat, will you ask your question?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just muted myself. I struggle with like faking it till you make it versus like telling myself nice, kind things like self-love and all of that. Like, I don't know, and I'd love to hear your stance on the fake it till you make it mentality versus like self-love mentality.
I feel like, why do you think the faking it till you make it is a bad thing?
I don't know if it's a bad thing. I just sometimes feel like me faking it, then I don't know how to word it, but like, I feel like if I am like, I am successful and all of these things, I get into my head, I guess, probably, and discount that. But I don't know, the term faking it till I make it is a term that's been difficult for me to grapple with.
So change the term.
Okay.
Because it's having some emotional connection, like you're having an emotional reaction to the words. So change it. And it sounds like you're judging the fact that you want to have a new belief about yourself. And that's why faking it till you make it is this big thing. But that's what you need to do. There's nothing wrong with, like, I could say fake it till you make it, and it means nothing to me. But you're having a thought about that title. And if it's that much of like emotional thing for you, then change the word. I don't know what word you were changing to, but maybe just don't say fake it till you make it. Maybe have another slogan. But you seriously have to do it. Like, you have to like change your thinking and keep believing it and give yourself evidence. You're not really, is it really faking it? I don't know.
Well, so Mabel, this thought popped into my head, right? There's one, fake it till you make it is like, I'm just going to say this thing in hopes that it happens, right? That's one way of doing life. But there's another way of doing life where you're saying something that you want to happen, even though it's not happening yet. You're actively taking action towards that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really faking it if you're working towards it, right? It's like, no, I'm working on this so that I make it. It's not faking it till I make it. It's no, I'm making it so that I can make it, right?
And
So
those are sorry, that's not even her words. It's like a slogan that the world uses. So just remove it.
I think that patients have a tendency to underestimate the fact that just the decision to proceed with bariatric surgery and embark on that journey is one that's based on self-love. Yeah, maybe you don't like your current condition, but you are actively committing to a process and a journey to improve the quality of your life and those of your loved ones around you. I mean, that right there is self-love, making that type of commitment. So I think that everyone just needs to acknowledge that and pat yourself on the back for making that commitment, because the easiest way out is just to throw in the towel.
I agree.
Response, right? I mean, the chat, you guys, is absolutely fire. This is right. It's so hard, but it's so necessary. And we're bringing up so many amazing thoughts. But this conversation, you guys, I want you to take a moment and I want you to recognize this conversation is you showing yourself self-love. You're here. You love yourself enough to seek the answers. You love yourself enough to be around community members who get it. You love yourself enough to not give up and to ask. It's freaking amazing.
And April, I want to say that sometimes we think that we are supposed to feel 100% positive emotion while we're experiencing self-love. But self-love, like you can feel self-love and feel negative emotion as well. In our human experience, we are going to feel negative and positive emotion. This is totally normal. Just because you feel negative emotion doesn't mean that you cannot have self-love. You can experience both at the same time. The problem is that we are taught that if you feel negative emotion, that something is wrong. It is not. We are supposed to feel negative emotion. We are humans feeling feelings. It's okay. It's just living the human experience. There's nothing wrong with feeling negative emotion. And I always like to say this, without negative emotion, you will not know what positive emotion is, right? And if you always felt self-love, it would just be a constant being. Like it wouldn't even be self-love. Like you wouldn't even know that you're experiencing self-love. This is why without the negative emotion, you cannot experience positive. Without the negative emotions, you cannot experience positive emotion. And that's how you know that it's okay. This is just you being a human in the planet, experiencing the world, and you're using your mind to navigate through everything. Nothing's gone wrong.
I mean, I would also argue that demonstration of self-love is strongest as you overcome adversity, challenges, stalls. That is like the most powerful embodiment of self-love.
That is so true. That was deep.
Oh my God, dude, once again, my brain is like leaking out of my ears. It's just so, I'm out of words.
It's eye-opening for many of us, especially yourself, April, because we're getting into territory that even you and I haven't come close to in all the talks and the discussions and things that we've had in the hours and hours that you and I and Natalie have spoken, just ourselves off camera. There's just a lot of things about it. And just like when Natalie talking about the fake it till you make it thing, it's very hard for you. Like it's that whether you tell yourself you can or you can't, you're right. But at the same time, you can't sell yourself something to not be true. The imposter syndrome is one thing, but when you're trying to fool your own self, like you can sit there and come up and say, I've gone from never, closest you get to a gym is if you accidentally drive by one, to being a gym rat, being in there 7 days a week, going hard in the paint and becoming a CrossFit champion. Like you're not just going to do that from one day to the next because now I've had surgery, so let me just do this. Like that's just not, it's not feasible. So you're not going to tell yourself that, and you're not going to just believe you telling yourself, well, now I'm just, now that I'm post-op, let's get it. Like, woo, gym 7 days, let's get it, and jump into it. It doesn't work that way. So, but I believe, everybody kind of hit on that is starting with something, starting somewhere where, you have an action plan, you have a vision board, you have whatever that may be, you're going to manifest those things to start working in your favor. That's what's going to get you to where you want to be. But like we've always said, you've got to celebrate even the smallest wins, because that's what's going to build up that database like Mabel was talking about. When your mind looks for the things, for the evidence behind what you're telling yourself, those are even the smallest thing it's going to pick up on and say, well, this is some evidence. Well, here's some more evidence. And it's like a trail of breadcrumbs. They're going to find it, but you have to start even with the smallest of wins, because that's what's going to build that database. We've got, like for myself, I didn't have surgery till I was 44. I've got 44 years of stuff that I used to tell myself that was not the politest of things to tell myself. So 44 years versus not even 2 years post-op, I got some work to do to build up this positive database, but celebrating those small wins is what's going to get me there.
Yeah, there's nothing easy about this journey. I mean, you're talking about people undoing decades of routine that have been ingrained in their brain. And it was touched on earlier, you know, the primitive brain, the limbic system is one of routine. It just does the same thing. It's hungry. It's excited. It's scared. You know, it wants to get busy. Like all of that. Like that's the limbic system. And it's one of routine and pleasure, immediate pleasure, and you need to break those habits. And it's not easy. Again, you're fighting decades, but that's where the tool comes in because it helps the body kind of work with you to break some of those habits towards the positive.
We could talk for hours on this, my friends. Before we transition to Dr. Russo, Mabel, I would like to thank you for your insight and your wisdom and your friendship and your community. I would love everybody in the chat, if you feel comfortable, will you share with us what was one big aha, mind blown takeaway moment from Mabel? Or if you feel so brave, type something to yourself that will help you practice self-love in this very safe place.
Be brave, people.
Be brave. We can all be brave. And as we're doing that, I encourage us all to also take a moment and let's get some hydration, friends. Cheers. And Mabel's going to hang out with us for the rest of our VBM. So if you do have any questions for her after Dr. Russo's talk, you're welcome to ask. I'm going to skip these so we can go straight to Dr. Russo. We will revisit them. Dr. Russo, you were going to talk to us about another way that we can show ourselves self-love, and that is through self-advocacy.
You know, it's interesting because like we spoke about before on the podcast or soon to be released on the podcast, I had a hard time understanding this advocacy piece coming from the arena of medicine, because the fact is, when's the last time you've heard someone having to advocate for them taking their high blood pressure medicine or getting their diabetes medicine? I mean, it doesn't happen. And in medicine, obesity, those that understand the disease of obesity understand that it's as simple to understand as high blood pressure, and it demands treatment. However, due to social and societal norms, misunderstandings of the disease of obesity, misunderstandings of the likelihood of losing weight with medically supervised weight loss, with diet and exercise, even with a doctor's help, or inappropriate judgments about the safety or effectiveness of bariatric surgery, people fight adversity when they try sometimes to advocate for themselves to get healthy. And this could be in front of even doctors. I don't know if any of you encountered any sort of resistance when you started speaking to your doctor about the idea of getting weight loss surgery. I mean, it's a fairly newly understood disease. It's only a few decades old, frankly. And the more we understand, the more we realize that this is a hormonal medical problem. But the truth remains that advocacy is a critical component of this space. You need to advocate for your wellness. You need to advocate for your ability to lead a life of higher quality than you're currently leading. And those that tell you you could do it with diet and exercise alone, what I'm going to share with you may shock you. If someone is a BMI over 40, there's plenty of good research about the non-effectiveness of diet and exercise. But if you're a BMI greater than 40, there are plenty of good studies that show that your likelihood of losing the weight on your own is like 1 in 500, possibly less. It's not going to happen. And that's because your body's hormonally programmed to hold on to that weight. So it's okay to tell friends, family members, your doctor, that you want to seek out a path that will get you to your ultimate destination with greater reliability. Because you know what? You deserve to lead a life of high quality. Anyone that tells you no, that's completely inappropriate. And you need to know that this is a decision, like we said, based on self-love and wanting better for yourself and your loved ones. So you should feel empowered.
You know, and I think what's difficult for bariatric patients, especially, and we talked about this on our podcast episode with you, Dr. Russo, for so long, we didn't feel that we had a voice, or we didn't recognize it, or we felt that our size and our shape precluded us from having a say in even our own medical treatment. Because, right, I'm the dumb one. I'm the one that just can't stop eating food, even though we know that wasn't the case. That was the story we were telling ourselves, right? Talking about self-love, that was the opposite of that. So when it comes time to advocating for ourselves as a patient and in our personal lives, it's a very uncomfortable place to be at because we've just never done it before.
Yep. And I mean, tradition is something that's very hard to change, and a traditional understanding of something. So an easy way to kind of detect people that either understand the disease of obesity or not, anyone that says that you are overweight or obese because you eat too much, so stop eating so much and you'll lose weight, has no idea what they're talking about. So if you hear that, immediately dismiss that person as having zero understanding from a medical perspective of the disease. And that's what it is. So you just need to move on to more educated conversations, politely dismiss those people that say that and say, you know what, you really need to do more research into this. You really need to spend some time understanding the disease of obesity. And here's the wonderful thing. The amazing thing about the hormonal dysregulation that occurs that causes diseases like obesity is that it's like the trunk of a tree. What many people don't understand, they get focused on the high blood pressure, they get focused on the sleep apnea or the diabetes. Those are branches all from the same common trunk. So is obesity. The hormonal dysregulation, sometimes called metabolic syndrome, leads to all of those conditions. PCOS, I see that going crazy in the chat, and that's always a really hot topic for my social media followers as well. But that is all stemming from the exact same root cause. And the beautiful thing about bariatric surgery is that you're chopping down that tree at the trunk. You're not messing around by chopping down branches or putting band-aids on those branches by taking those high blood pressure meds or whatnot. So this is something that's extremely powerful, and those that have gone through the journey can completely advocate for this. I mean, it is life-changing stuff, and I've got the best job in the world because of that. But I mean, I'm just looking at everything else here in the slide. Personal advocacy, we talked a lot about that. Positive self-talk, I think that relates very closely to the self-love that we already talked about. And then, of course, community advocacy. This is the perfect demonstration of that. And one of the really wonderful things about the bariatric community is that it is on fire. I mean, it is growing fast. I've just jumped into the deep end, as you know, jumping in with a cannonball, because the fact is that the more that you spread the truth, the more that you share your journey with people or what it takes to be successful, the more quickly people rally around you, and this thing just grows. I mean, 40% of the population, over 40%, is obese now in this country. I mean, and the shocking thing is out of the people that qualify for bariatric surgery, 2% get it. So it is completely untapped. But one day it'll become so common, it'll be like the way that young women that carry excess weight think about mommy makeovers. Realistically, I mean, many of those women should probably be getting bariatric surgery and not mommy makeovers, but it's not like, you know, a plastic surgeon's going to say no. So yeah. Good ones will, but you really need to advocate for yourself. And again, there's going to be trials along the way, even from people that you may not expect it from, family members, super close friends, doctors. But like I said, it's all based on misinformation or a lack of understanding. You need to understand that, because you shouldn't need to advocate like you do. Bariatric surgery is extremely safe. It's not dangerous, if anyone says that. It's 3 to 5 times safer than getting your gallbladder removed, the sleeve. I mean, it's super safe. It used to be very dangerous. It was 10% mortality when it was done through a big open incision in the old open days on people that were literally dying from this disease. So it was 10% mortality. It's completely different. So all of that is antiquated knowledge, frankly. You're not going to do it with medicine and diet, even with a doctor's help. Diet and exercise, it's just not going to happen. And then also, bariatric surgery is extremely effective. You may not appreciate just how successful it is. Trust me, I do, because I see these people in clinic. But especially in support groups and things, the least likely people to contribute in a social or support group setting are those that are just riding off into the sunset, enjoying their new high quality life. I would love to change that. I'd love for more people like you all to, share more of your success stories. And that's where something like Patient Partner really steps in. These are ambassadors. And all the people that are prolific in the social media space, they really want to share that message, because this is one of community, it's one of support, and one of excitement, because this is the most life-changing thing that people can really undergo from a medical perspective. It's really amazing.
Well, and really, I think in a lot of ways, having the space or the ability to just share our story, to share our recipe with the world, is not only a form of self-love, but it is self-advocacy, right? By sharing our story, we're acknowledging, we're not discounting our own story. We're saying, no, this is important, and I have the ability to share it, because by you sharing your story, it might be providing that missing ingredient for somebody else, right? So we're doing that. And then by telling your story, you're also advocating for your needs. The more that you tell it, the more real it becomes, the more education you learn about the procedure that many of us have gone through, or we're going to go through, right? So these pieces really go hand in hand. And I think when we start to find our voice and we start to value ourselves, that desire or that drive to advocate for ourselves and others also grows, because the love grows, right? All good things come out of that place of love for ourselves. And when we realize how amazing our life can be by taking on this medical tool, we look around and we want everybody else to have it as well. We want to advocate for them and for ourselves. Dr. Russo, what are some ways that patients can advocate for themselves, either pre-op or post-op?
So I would say that pre-op, the first place to advocate for yourself is prepare yourself with information. So this is a really good forum for it. And then begin with your doctor, especially if you have an HMO type insurance where you need a referral to start speaking with a weight loss specialist or a bariatric surgeon. Good bariatric surgeons, not everything is, we don't only have a hammer and not everything is a nail. I mean, we have an assortment of offerings that literally come in all flavors, and we'll find the right tool for the right people. But it's important to advocate for yourself, armed with information, if you do have to have that first kind of gatekeeper as your primary care doctor, because they may not be all for it. They may not have been educated on it. You may not have a very strong community that's bariatric surgery centric. I'm very fortunate that we've developed that here where I'm at. So it's rare that I encounter primary care doctors that are naysayers, if you will, because they've seen the results. I mean, we're an extremely busy practice and our patients are everywhere, so they see it. But other areas of the country, bariatric surgery isn't as, it's not as universally accepted. There's coverage challenges and things like that. So you may encounter more challenges in kind of broaching or embarking on that subject with your primary care provider. So just be prepared for that. And then, of course, after surgery, it's surrounding yourself with the right support system, because this journey is not easy. So the last thing you need is a bunch of naysayers saying things like, I was looking at the chat, like, someone saying, oh, if you could do this beforehand, you wouldn't have needed surgery. I mean, these are people that just don't understand the hormonal and genetic components of what leads to someone becoming obese or carrying excess weight. And it's really tough to surround yourself with that type of just uneducated naysaying, frankly. I mean, I wish there was a better term for it, but it's a lack of education. I mean, anyone that studies the disease of obesity or chooses to speak with an expert that does understand it, I mean, the choice to undergo bariatric surgery for those that qualify, I mean, it is a no-brainer. I mean, you have three choices. Think about it this way. This is a great way to present it to your loved ones, especially people that are naysayers or your doctor. So you have three choices, right? Choice number one, diet and exercise, even with a doctor's help or with medication. Not going to work. We already talked about that, okay? Choice number two is getting bariatric surgery, okay? That's a possibility. Choice number three, not doing bariatric surgery. So now that we've gotten rid of the medically supervised weight loss, because you all have gone through that, you've gone through the yo-yo dieting, you understand that the hormonal set point, it's like an internal thermostat. All you do when you do a diet or even medication is what you're doing is you're stretching, you have this programmed set point, it's like your internal thermostat, you're stretching your weight down like stretching a rubber band. Your body will hit a wall, it'll stall you out, and then what happens when you come off that diet? Right back up to the same weight, if not a higher one. And that's the hormonal influence exerting its effect on your overall weight. So that's the reason why diets don't work. And on average, patients before they meet me have tried at least 8 diet and exercise programs, and they've been thinking about bariatric surgery for 2 years. So there's a long pathway. You want to say something, April?
Oh no, I was just raising my hand like, yep, I think
Okay.
I tried 12. I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
I've done everything.
yeah. And I mean, so throw that out. It's not going to work. Okay. You've already been there, done that. So now you're thinking about bariatric surgery or not doing bariatric surgery. So it doesn't take a crystal ball to know what your future looks like if you do nothing. You're going to get sick, your quality of life is going to deteriorate rapidly, and you'll die at an earlier age than you should. I mean, look at your relatives, because excess weight travels in families. And like I said, bariatric surgery is underutilized. So if you want to see your future, start looking at your relatives, your parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents. That is your path. So now when you consider something like bariatric surgery that's never been safer, it's extremely effective. I mean, the choice is clear. And that's what you should share with the people that care about you, because if they knew that, they would also want the best for you.
Right? Oh my gosh. The chat is once again on fire, not surprising here. You know, and if you're wondering, like, how can I start to practice self-advocacy? The role of community can be that safe place where you can practice. So if you're not quite ready to have those conversations with people yet, but you have a community, a place where you can go and say, you know, I'm thinking about having this conversation with this person, you know, how does this sound? Right? You're literally just practicing these conversations. You're gearing yourself up to advocate for yourself. Everything in life takes practice. Everything. We have to practice to learn how to live as bariatric patients. We have to practice to learn how to, right, to advocate for ourselves. We have to practice. Everything is practice. But if we have a safe place to go and do that practice, we will be successful. And that is why forums like this, the VBM, Instagram, Patient Partner, BariNation, membership community, all of these places are spaces that we can safely not only practice self-love, but advocacy, self-advocacy. Dr. Russo, anything else for the good of the order before we wrap up for this evening?
No, you know, I want everyone to feel empowered on this journey. I know it could feel daunting, especially if you're pre-op. It could feel daunting if you're post-op and you've hit a stall, something like that. But always remember that you're surrounded by people that do care about your success. And you know what? If you don't find it in your own home, that's not the end of the world. Jump onto something like this. Call up a patient partner, connect with a patient partner. There's never been easier access to overwhelming support. And that's one of the really exciting things about kind of where we're at in this day and age. So I want everyone to feel empowered on their journey, because you know what? It's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work, but I'll tell you what, it is worth it, and you will never look back.
I think many of us on this call tonight can testify to that, because we are living our lives on the lighter side of life, right? And there's a lot of our friends that are getting ready to do so. Guys, we have a few moments left. I was hoping we would build in lots of time for questions, but it seems to just never be the case. Do you have any questions, friends, for Dr. Russo or Mabel? Now is your time to ask. You can drop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Or if you just want to say something, you're welcome to do that too. We love our Barry family as well. Dr. Russo and Mabel, as you guys can see, you guys are real people. You can send them direct messages. You can email them. They will be happy to connect with you in real time. Maybe not in person, because they live all over the country, but they are here for you. And so is this community. BariNation, we have a membership community that is a safe place to connect, learn, and grow with members of our community. We have almost daily support groups at this point that are led by therapists. We've got peer-to-peer meetups. There's even some creators and experts that are on the screen right now. Patient Partner, you guys, is an amazing free community where you can be matched with a trained bariatric mentor. It's so easy. You just create a free account, you plop right in there, and it's like a playground for bariatric people. I truly mean that in the best possible way. Jason, Nat, and I are all in there participating, being members of that community as well. And I'm going to drop it in the chat, you guys, one more time, so you have that link, so you can click it.
You can also become a mentor if you don't need a mentor and you feel like you want to give back to the community. You can. There's also a place for you there as well. You can become a mentor, get partnered up with somebody who's pre-op or freshly post-op, and you can be that person's bariatric big brother or big sister, so to speak, and just kind of help them along in their journey, departing the knowledge and just kind of reminding them that you've been there and what they're going through is normal. And just kind of help them, help hold their hand through the first couple of weeks, months, however long. You guys, you don't know, you could form an unbreakable bond and friendship, much like we have with all of our Barry family. So I highly recommend you get in there and look around and see if something doesn't fit for you, because I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Jason. We get messages every day from members of this community asking how they can become more involved. Well, guess what? You can become a mentor. Check that out, friends, because we all have something to share with one another. If you guys are looking for resources, we have 2 brand new episodes. Dr. Russo's episode drops tomorrow at 5 a.m. It's amazing. Miss Mabel's episode dropped today. You can follow Mabel at Beyond the Sleeve Academy on Instagram, and you can follow Dr. Russo at weightloss_OC. And there's information there on BariNation and the Patient Partner community. We love to give you guys first dibs on what's coming up. So you guys are the first to know what the support theme is in March. And y'all, it is straight fire. And the man who is making the graphics, is helping us make graphics, is here tonight, Mr. Herb. That guy's amazing. So when you guys see these fire graphics, thank Herb for them. Our support theme, you guys, is March macros. We're going to be learning all about macros, what they are, why they're important, and how we can build a balanced and beautiful bariatric meal. We are so excited about the theme that's coming up in March. So the VBM will be the 30th at 5 p.m. It's the very last Wednesday of March. If you would like to join us, get a reminder in your calendar now. The event is not live yet, but it will be soon. It's going to be amazing. All right, my friends. So, oh, did I skip a slide? Oh, well, I usually like to ask, did everybody get what they were hoping to get out of tonight? Was this a valuable use of your time? I see a lot of, okay. All right. That's just the teacher in me, friends. you know, I can't not do that. No. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight, you guys. We so appreciate you and your incredible participation in our amazing community. We'll hang out here for a couple minutes just to wrap things up. But Jason, why don't you take us out? It's always your job to do so.
It is. We thank you, Dr. Russo and Mabel, both for coming through and being with us and just kind of spending time with everybody to brush up on the knowledge that we so needed. It's just so welcome in our community, and there's a lot of times people don't get to spend this kind of time with professionals such as yourself. So we appreciate you guys lending your time and effort to us. And everybody, just we know how hard it can be to click a Zoom link and come and show up and talk and do things. Even if you don't talk, even if you don't get on camera, just coming in the room is hard enough. So we applaud you for that. That is your big win in your self-love for the day. If you've got nothing else to tell yourself, you showed up for yourself today, and that's what matters the most. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we will see you next time.